Welcome to another episode of Does It Hold Up? In this episode, we're watching X-Men Origins Wolverine. Coming up.
Yeah, watching old movies, gonna see if it holds up.
This is the fourth film in the X-Men series and the first attempt at going solo. And of course, they started with Wolverine. I think he's probably the most interesting character in the X-Men universe, or at least the most popular. And you got Hugh Jackman, who's a pretty big actor, so that's the route they go. Interesting fact about this movie is that Ryan Reynolds was actually trying to get together a Deadpool movie for probably about 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, before the Deadpool movie was made in 2016. And when he heard they wrote the Deadpool character into this film, he insisted on playing the role, which he did, which we all know was a terrible iteration of the character. I never was a big fan of the X-Men movies. The first three were just okay for me. And then they went to the X-Men Origin movie with Wolverine, and I wasn't that anxious to get out and see it. I wasn't a huge comic book guy growing up, but I did have a few comic books, and one of my favorites was an X-Men edition, and I just don't think these movies really did justice to the comics, and so I was never really that impressed with them. I did eventually see the Origin film with Wolverine, and probably on DVD, and I didn't think it was that great then either, and it probably didn't even hold my attention that much because I barely remembered the movie. And then probably about a year ago, my wife and I went back and we got all of the X-Men movies on Amazon streaming, and we watched them in order, including this film. And again, I still wasn't that impressed. I was picking holes in it all over the place. I didn't like some of the special effects. I didn't like some of the acting. And so here I am, about a year later, watching it one more time to see, does it hold up? One of the things I didn't like about it before was Liev Schreiber playing the Victor Creed character, Sabretooth. And the problem that I had is that there was a lack of continuity. Going from the previous three X-Men movie, the X-Men trilogy, to this movie, and then seeing Liev Schreiber step into the role was, one, a little bit confusing, and two, I just don't think he did a great job in that role. He's a great actor, but I didn't think he did a great job. Now, just rewatching it, I wasn't as harsh on him. I didn't think it was that bad, but I still think there was something missing there. Some of the special effects also are of concern. In particular, the scene in the bathroom where he's looking at his adamantium claws for the first time, and they're just obviously CGI. It just looks really cheesy to me, and it really pulls me out of the movie. In addition, some of the mutant characters in the movie were kind of boring to me. Just not what I would expect from an X-Men movie, especially his group of mercenaries that he's running around with. The Will.i.am character, I mean, this one, I think the studio just thought up. It's not portraying any character necessarily from the comics, although I think they're pulling his traits from the Nightcrawler character, and I think they developed it specifically for Will.i.am to play the part. So I wasn't impressed there. And then the Zero character. I really know very little about this character and anything about his comic book history, but he was just boring to me. He was boring, non-charismatic acting, just not impressed about those characters. Now, later on in the movie, you get to see some other mutants that are being held captive, and those are a little bit better, but just a little bit disappointed at some of the other ones. And obviously, as I've already mentioned, Deadpool was done terribly. That's not the Deadpool we wanted to see, and we finally did get to see Deadpool in 2016. I did, though, find it interesting to see the evolution of the Wolverine. So the fact that it started way back in the 1800s, you get to see him as a kid, although I wasn't impressed with the acting of that kid. You get to see him as a kid, and then you get that opening sequence where they're going from war to war to war. I believe they start off in the Civil War, and then they go to World War I, World War II, and then finally into the Vietnam War. And so I thought that was interesting. I thought that was, it's kind of cool to see and understand the fact that Wolverine's history goes way back. He's been around for a while, and that plays a part in the future X-Men movies. Of course, it feels like it's been done before, though. Wolverine is playing the mercenary with a heart of gold. He's a wild animal trapped in this good man's body. And so the story seems like it's been played out before, and it almost seems like every Wolverine movie kind of touches on this point, that he is the mercenary with a heart of gold. Another point that took me out of the continuity is going to be Charles Xavier showing up at the very end of the movie to rescue all of the mutants. First off, the special effects there don't look that great to me. I think in 2009 they hadn't perfected that technique, and so making him look younger just looked a little bit creepy to me. The other thing is he's walking and he's bald, and so to me it doesn't feel like it follows the continuity of all of the other X-Men movies. Now I know this was made before X-Men First Class, but I just think that it does, going back now, it takes you out of the movie, out of the continuity, especially since we've come to know that history. One of the things I did like was the Gambit character. Maybe not necessarily the way he was portrayed, but just the general concept of Gambit. And so I'm actually pretty excited to see the movie be made about the character Gambit. And I think they've got Channing Tatum picking up that role, so we'll see if he can pull that out. I think this is a character that we haven't had a chance to see very much. I remember reading about him in the comics, and I kind of liked him, and so I am curious to see what happens there down the road when they go do a Gambit movie. Okay, there it is. Time to decide if this movie holds up. And it's actually kind of interesting. I've gone up and down with this movie over time. I didn't really like it when I saw it. I didn't really like it, a year ago when I watched it again. But now that I go back and watch it, it was better than I remember. So it's hard to say that it actually holds up because it never held up for me in the first place. And there are definitely some holes in it, considering the fact that the continuity is thrown off a little bit. But what I'll say is that it is a movie going back. It's worth watching. It's worth kind of putting this in the series of X-Men movies and not skipping over it like you would do, like maybe episode 1 of Star Wars if you're going to watch the prequels. So that being said, I would say it almost holds up. Okay, that's the episode this week. Don't forget to support the Dumb Guys by subscribing. If you like this video, click the little thumbs up below and share it with your friends. Also, I want to hear what you think about this movie and any other movies, so put your comments down below. Let me know if you agree with me on this one, the X-Men Origin Wolverine, and maybe what your thoughts are of the next movie I should review as well. There it is. As always, stay dumb.
Dumb guys.